Hello and welcome to another Outside the Box review. Today we are looking at the DC Universe. Today we are looking at the Green Lantern Classics Wave 2, Medphyll and Nautkeiloi. These figures are sold as a single unit, one figure with two heads, the same as they did with the Low and Mash in Wave 1, and the Scalix and Nightlick also in this wave. And as you can see here, I have two of them, but the Medphyll, which is this guy right here, is actually on the Sinestro body from the Green Lantern's Light 5-pack. I had another body to put the Sinestro head on that suited it a little better, so I decided just to migrate this guy over to here. So if you're looking for things like coloration, the Medphyll is on a slightly lighter green body. I think the black pattern's a little different, and there's some other details as well that are different. So for that one, we'll be looking at the head sculpt alone, and Nautkeiloi is the actual figure you can get in this wave. We'll start off with the Medphyll head sculpt. It's interesting. Of all the Green Lanterns you could have gone with, I don't know if this would have been one I would have picked. But I guess they were going with unusual for this set, I guess you could call it. So he's a one-eyed tree with a bandit's mask on. I mean, it does have good detail on it. It's nicely painted. It looks like a tree. It works. The reason I put this head on the other body is because I could care a little less about this one. So if he's not quite up to what the figure should be, I can deal with that more. I just really didn't want to spend another $15 just for this guy. But he's nice, and I'm sure there's a fan of him out there somewhere. Next up is the Nautkeiloi. There's a really cool sculpt on this one. I like it. The fish head inside the bubble. It's all removable. Obviously, you have to be able to swap the heads, but the part around his neck here, the silver, is one piece. You can actually take the dome off, and the head's removable. So, almost if you didn't want him with the bubble on his head, you could actually just take the fish head and put it on this body. Although, it looks a little small without the tank. It's really nicely detailed. You do lose the articulation. You can't move it really through this. And it does kind of cut off part of the Green Lantern logo. But it's very different looking. And as I've said a lot of times with these Green Lantern figures, I appreciate the different ones. The ones that have a different flavor to them, that don't just look like the rest of the pack. The figure itself is pretty nice. The body has a very dark green on it, which is pretty consistent in the wave. I think Sodom Yacht had a similar one. I mean, obviously the greens vary greatly across the lines here. An interesting thing on it is the white of the gloves isn't really a pure white. It almost has, I can't decide if it's like a metallic sheen or almost more of just like a dirty white. You can definitely see there's some black highlights in it here. I can't really put my finger on what the overall color is. I guess I'm going to call it maybe some black dry brushing over it, would be my guess. But it has a neat effect. It really does look good. And it's a nice contrast to just the stark white like you get on the Sinestro body here. It's very, very bright white. Once again, as with all of these figures, the ring is there, nicely detailed in a metallic green. Exactly what you'd want for your Green Lantern rings. I mean, they blow DC Direct out of the water with that. The main difference with this body is the feet. He has these two-toed feet here. Which is really cool that they did that. I mean, they could have very easily just given us the normal standard boot. I'm sure that in the comics it is accurate to have those on Medphyll, but once again, it's something I didn't care enough about. I mean, how often do you stare at their feet? And I'm probably going to put him towards the back of my core anyway, so might as well keep these feet on the one that I like best. Though his ankle, or his knee, is a little warped, which is disappointing. I'll have to take some hot water to that or something. Get it straightened out. Or maybe time will force it into the right direction. It's already better than it was when I bought it. As for articulation, the heads, well, the head on Medphyll is ball jointed. You can go up, down, side to side, all that good stuff. Nautkeiloi lacks that, though if you took the bubble off, you could move his head. Let me show you that here. And pop the bubble off. You can, rotate his head. Not so much up and down with this thing around his neck. But it is there, and you can pose him with the bubble off and then put the bubble back on. Obviously, it would limit it with the shape. The shoulders are standard ball joint. I mean, all the rest of the articulation is standard. Swivel at the upper arm, bend at the elbow, rotate the wrist. Ab crunch, which I'm glad to see is nice and tight on this figure. Rotate the waist, legs go out, forward and backwards. Bend at the knee, rotate at the upper leg, and bend at the ankle. Obviously, in a line called Green Lantern Classics, we're going to get a lot of Green Lantern figures. It's a great opportunity to build up your Green Lantern core and your collection. And these are both decent figures. I definitely like the Nautkeiloi a lot more than I like the Medphyll. But they are both solid head sculpts. The bodies, if you were to buy two of the actual figures as opposed to doing what I did, the bodies only, the only difference is the heads. It's not like some of the other switch out ones where they have alternate hands. They just have the standard gloved Green Lantern hands. Not really too big of a deal. The feet are nice and could definitely lead to some cool customs if you want to pick up some more of these. Obviously, because they have the interchangeable head, they are packed more to a case than average. So you do have the opportunity to pick them up, and maybe you can get some cool other Green Lanterns out of it. That being said, I think I would recommend these guys. Once again, you're going to have to buy at least one of them to get Stell together. But even beyond that, they're a nice boost for your Green Lantern core. This has been another Outside the Box review. Stay tuned for more.